Welcome back to My Matters, everyone. Today we have Ava here, a performance coach, helping us tackle something we all wrestle with, the fear of failure. Ava, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Andrew. It's fantastic to be here, and honestly, this is a topic I get asked about constantly. It's a huge one.
Absolutely. Let's just jump right in. So, for a lot of people, the thought of trying something new or even putting themselves out there is completely paralyzed by the fear of not succeeding. Where does that fear really stem from, do you think?
That's a brilliant starting point. I think a huge part of it comes from societal pressures. We're constantly bombarded with images of perfect success, the Instagram influencer, the CEO, the award-winning artist. It creates this unrealistic benchmark, and then we feel like we have to be brilliant immediately, which is impossible. Plus, we often tie our self-worth to achievement, so failure becomes a personal judgment.
That makes perfect sense. So it's less about the actual failure itself and more about the perceived judgment. Let's say someone has a brilliant idea for a business, but they're terrified to launch it because they're worried about it failing. How do you even start to move past that paralysis?
The first step is almost always reframing failure. Instead of seeing it as failure, try to view it as feedback. It's information. It's saying, okay, that didn't work the way I planned. What can I learn from it? Focus on the learning, not the outcome.
Okay, feedback. That's a really good way to put it. I often hear people say, I don't want to embarrass myself. How do you address that thought? It feels so vulnerable.
Vulnerability is key here, Andrew. But it's about embracing that vulnerability. Recognize that everyone experiences setbacks. The people you admire most likely faced countless rejections and mistakes before achieving anything significant. Think about Thomas Edison. He failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb.
Wow, that's a powerful image. So it's about normalizing the experience of messing up. What about setting smaller, more manageable goals to build confidence? Does that help?
Absolutely. It's all about building momentum. Start with something incredibly small, a single email, a quick sketch, a 15-minute practice session. Celebrating those tiny victories reinforces that you are capable and builds that initial confidence.
So a micro-win strategy. That's practical. But what if, despite all that, the fear is still there, intensely present? Like, you've done the groundwork, taken the small steps, but the anxiety is overwhelming?
That's when self-compassion becomes crucial. Talk to yourself as you would a friend. Don't beat yourself up for feeling afraid. Acknowledge the fear, validate it. It's okay to be scared, and then gently remind yourself of your reasons for wanting to do this. Self-talk is incredibly powerful.
I can see that. It's almost like an internal pep talk. Are there any specific techniques, perhaps breathing exercises or mindfulness, that you recommend to manage that immediate anxiety?
Definitely. Simple diaphragmatic breathing, breathing deeply into your belly, can instantly calm your nervous system. Even just 30 seconds of focused breathing can make a huge difference. Mindfulness practices, like focusing on the present moment, can help pull you out of anxious thoughts.
That's great advice. Let's say someone does try something, puts themselves out there, and it doesn't go as planned. They completely bombed. How do you handle the aftermath of that?
The key is not dwelling on the negative. Analyze what happened, objectively. What could you do differently next time? Then let it go. Don't let one experience define your entire journey. Reframe it as a valuable lesson learned.
So, learning from experience, moving on. It's about resilience. What about building a support system, friends, family, mentors, who can offer encouragement?
Seriously invaluable. Surround yourself with people who believe in you, who will celebrate your wins and offer support during setbacks. Having someone to bounce ideas off of and get honest feedback from is incredibly helpful. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Fantastic advice, Ava. It sounds like it's not about eliminating fear entirely, but about learning to manage it, reframe it, and keep moving forward. Any final thoughts for our listeners?
Just remember that progress, not perfection, is the goal. Take small steps, be kind to yourself, and celebrate every victory, no matter how small. And don't be afraid to fail. It's a part of the journey.
So, Ava, I've been thinking a lot about fear of failure lately. Have you ever felt like that?
All the time, actually. I think it's one of those things that we all deal with at some point in our lives.
Yeah, I can relate. It's like, no matter how hard we try, there's always that voice in the back of our head saying, what if you fail?
Exactly. And I think a lot of people struggle with it because they're not sure what their fears are. They might be afraid of failure itself, but they're also worried about what others will think.
That's so true. For me, it's always been about the fear of not living up to my potential. What if I don't achieve my goals?
But here's the thing. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's a part of it. Think about all the successful people who have failed along the way.
That makes sense, but it's still hard for me to shake off that feeling. Do you have any advice on how to overcome fear of failure?
Well, I think one thing is to reframe your thinking around failure. Instead of seeing it as something negative, try to see it as an opportunity to learn and grow.
That's a great point. I never thought about it that way. But what if you're not even sure where to start? Do you have any tips for people who are stuck?
Yeah, definitely. For me, it's all about taking small risks and stepping outside of my comfort zone. It sounds simple, but it can be really powerful.
That makes sense. I've been trying to do that more in my life, but it's still hard for me to muster up the courage sometimes.
I think that's because we're all wired differently. But the key is to find what works for you and stick with it.
Absolutely. And I love what you said about reframing our thinking around failure. That's something I can definitely work on.
Yeah, it's all about perspective. If you see failure as a chance to learn and grow, then it becomes a lot less scary.
Talking about this has really helped me think more clearly about my own fears. Thanks for sharing your insights.
No problem. Happy to help. And I'm glad we could have this conversation. It's always helpful to talk through these things with someone else.